Welcome to the Andy Beshear podcast. You can download the podcast on all major platforms and also subscribe to our YouTube channel at Andy Beshear Podcast. Folks, I am excited about this episode. We're going to have our conversation with the Johns. You're going to hear in my Kentucky accent. And Will's going to teach us some more Gen Z lingo in the style that only Will can. But we also, in this episode, get to talk to a guy that we've talked about a lot throughout the early episodes. That's right, we have New Orleans Saints quarterback Tyler Shough. We talked about Tyler both during his journey in the draft and when he was drafted, and today he's going to join us to tell us what his journey that's been filled with injuries and adversity, also a great marriage and partner with his wife, and what he's looking forward to in the NFL. So we're going to have part of this episode where we don't talk about politics at all, but we follow a journey of a man that I think we're all very proud of and has a lot to say. So let's get to it. We are coming full circle on the Andy Beshear podcast. You're listening to the Andy Beshear podcast. Our guest this week is former Louisville quarterback and New Orleans Saints rookie competing right now for the starting job, Tyler Shough. Tyler, welcome to the podcast.
Appreciate you, Mr. Beshear. How are we doing?
We're doing great. I'm here with John Rabinowitz, who I know you know.
My guy.
Pretty well.
He's got the swag already. I love it.
Listen, I got to support the home team.
Tyler, we have been talking about you since our very first podcast. We're on episode 14, so it's great to have you on. I think one of the most amazing parts of your story is how different it is than most college quarterbacks. You know, you went to 3 schools, have gone through a 6 or a 7 year journey. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was exactly that. It was a journey. I came into college thinking it was going to be picturesque. I'm going to be in 3 years, maybe 4 years max, and I'm going to go to the NFL, and everything's going to be perfect. And it was anything but that, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. I came out of high school in Arizona, going to Oregon. I had family from Oregon. I had a lot of connections there. Was going to hopefully take over Justin Herbert's job after he played 1 year. He ended up staying another. I learned so much from him, and that time ended up playing COVID year 2020. That was super rough in itself, just especially for everyone in general, but obviously in the sports world because everything was cut short. We only played 6 or 7 games and was just 20 years old. I was playing good, not playing great. Learned a lot about just ups and downs on the playing field there. Ended up transferring to Texas Tech, played there for 3 years. Had 3 injuries where I broke my collarbone twice. Broke my leg, and I started all 3 years, had a lot of memorable moments, but a lot of really hard times, just kind of wondering if this whole football thing is going to work out, and really came to terms that I wasn't, and I was trying to find a way to stay relevant on and off the field, and ended up becoming more of like a coach, and found my love of the game of just game planning and being around the guys and working out and rehabbing, and thought I would just really take advantage of one last opportunity, and fell in love with Louisville and Coach Brom, and ended up just signing on board. 2 weeks later, we were living in the Highlands and found a new home, and ended up being one of the best years of our lives.
Well, we've seen for quarterbacks going through injuries like Andrew Luck, how difficult it can be. Now, what was your foundation to push through one injury after another that were threatening this dream you had and this goal you've been working towards?
Mm-hmm. For me, I didn't grow up religious, grow up going to church a bunch, but I think the greatest thing for me was finding, my faith throughout this whole journey and being able to grow through it, kind of with my wife, and everything that we did throughout that whole process. Just every time we we had something figured out or tried to take it into our own grasp, it would just be, kind of taken away. You're like, no, you got to go through this journey. And I think just putting faith in that it's all going to work out, it's part of a bigger plan, that really took a lot of weight off of our shoulders. And then also her in general, just a lot of the nitty-gritty stuff that you don't see behind the scenes, like helping out with my whole injuries, with our dog, with day-to-day stuff. I mean, she was literally the greatest thing that ever happened to me because of you don't anticipate that, and you really get tested early on, and it was amazing. And this whole journey has been super fun. Having my wife Jordan and being a part of this whole journey together. And that's been the greatest lesson I've learned is surrounding yourself with good people. And I couldn't have also done it without my trainers and coaches and teammates as well. So I think the biggest thing is all that stuff's going to happen, and you're gonna be able to learn how to overcome it, or it's going to consume you, and you got to trust it's all going to work out in the end.
You're listening to the Andy Beshear podcast. We're talking to Tyler Shough, who just told us getting through adversity. He leaned on his faith. He leaned on his life partner. You all have now been married for a little over a year. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir. A little over a year. Felt like we've been together for a while. Been journeying the United States, but we talk about it a lot. Like aside from football, being in Louisville was one of the funnest years that we had, and hopefully can get back at some point, or maybe we're done playing. But we not because I'm on your podcast, but we were big fans of you as well.
Well, I appreciate that.
So listen,
Yeah.
Tyler, I already told Andy, much like us, you outkicked your coverage with Jordan.
Yeah,
Like,
no doubt.
she's awesome. And also an athlete.
So I was thinking my great love story. My wife and I have been married about 19 years. Started
That's awesome.
at a Mexican restaurant. We met at a birthday party at a Mexican restaurant called Cantina Marina. How did you guys meet?
There you go. We met in the dining hall, something similar, an eating area, but it was at the University of Oregon. She was a soccer player from there, and we ended up meeting there. Just kind of got introduced from a mutual friend, and I didn't have anything cool or slick to say. I think I was like just a weird dude staring at her when she was reaching her hand out. But I ended up going back and reintroducing myself, that I'm not an idiot, and we ended up becoming really good friends, and started dating shortly thereafter.
So she was a college soccer player.
Mm-hmm.
You are a professional quarterback. Your kids, it's going to be unfair when you have them for them to play sports against anybody else.
I don't know, just a couple skinny blonde white kids running around. I don't know if they're gonna have any super advantages, but they'll been through a lot of stuff. At least we'll hopefully can pass some life lessons on to them. But they're gonna get, like you said, a lot of the athleticism from her. But we'll see what happens.
So you go to the University of Louisville, and I think there's a great coaching staff there, especially for a quarterback. Tell me about working with the Brahms, the three Brahm brothers who
Mm-hmm.
work in the U of L coaching staff.
Yeah, I mean those some of the best people I've ever been around on the field, coaching wise, of how smart they are, what they've done for me in my career, just tangibly that way, and then also off the field and who they are as people and family. We've got to know them and their families really well, and spending Thanksgiving with them, going over, just it was awesome. And I think the biggest thing that I'm grateful for them for is just believing in me and giving me an opportunity, and kind of giving me the keys to go out there and play and have success. And it's obvious, as they know they play the position, it's going to be a lot of ups and downs. You have to get through the season and attack every single day. And they just knew how it went, and I was super grateful for them.
So you announce or you graduate and you're headed to the NFL, and you go to the combine,
Mm-hmm.
and you elect to do it, to not just do the interviews. You're going to get out there and do the drills. And I think the most memorable moment of the combine has to be you running the 40. Tell us a little bit about what was going through your head and how you approached the combine.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was like, it kind of goes back to that journey of I didn't think I was ever going to get here. In fact, I was told that I would never, ever get drafted, and I should just kind of go get signed, be a backup, hold the clipboard for the rest of my career and be grateful. And I got an opportunity at Louisville, and I was kind of like, screw this. I'm going to go out there and rip it and have fun. And that was my mindset at Louisville, and I was not going to change it for the combine. And, I obviously worked my butt off, and, Jordan was helping me with the playbooks, interviews, getting, nutrition right. And I felt really good, and I just wanted to go out there and compete. And I did not think I was going to run a 4.6, so that's why I reacted like that. I think my best was 2 weeks prior was like 4.84. I'm like, man, if I can get 4.7 and 4.75, beat Josh Allen or whatever it was, I'll be really happy. And ended up running that. So that was just a full blacked out, pure reaction of adrenaline, and it was super funny, but it was perfectly just a great description of that whole journey and who I am.
Yeah, I explained to Andy. I remember how excited you were to step on that field and how you embraced every aspect of the combine. Like, it was so impressive with just you were ready and you were going to show them what you're made of, and you just did an incredible job.
Yeah, I was just itching to get out there. I remember, a lot of guys, you're praying and hoping for this moment, and now that it's come, like you want these coaches to know who you are. And I had multiple teams tell me that they really appreciated that I was one of the ones to do it, and I was like crazy, and I was like, that's the whole point. And good and bad, I had you're obviously going to have a bad throw here and there. You're going to have maybe a wrong answer question, or you may have great responses. But for me, it was just being myself and going out there and having fun and preparing that way. And no different than what you guys are doing. You got to go out there and be yourself and let it rip.
This is the Andy Beshear podcast. We're talking to New Orleans Saints quarterback Tyler Shough. That has a really nice ring to it. New Orleans Saints quarterback Tyler Shough. He's talked to us about playing behind Justin Herbert at Oregon, about beating Josh Allen's 40 time at the combine. Tell me what you think it's going to feel like to play against those guys.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I only say that just because I'm a huge fan of his. Look up to him and his game, but I think it'll be really cool, especially going to Buffalo and that whole franchise and fan base, and also playing against the Chargers as well. Both Justin and Josh, I really try and model my game after both of those guys, and got to be up and close with Herbert. But yeah, super excited, and it's crazy even talking about it in that aspect. But I right now kind of thinking not too far in the future, and got to keep putting in work and go earn the spot, and then we'll see what happens.
So you go through the combine, and draft night comes. And you must have been thinking and looking forward to draft night saying, this is the night where my dog is going to become a celebrity.
Heck no.
But tell me the feeling, right? The call comes. Tell me what that feels like for this dream to come true in that moment.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of one of those combine moments where you really just disassociate, and it's pure energy. But the biggest thing for us was managing expectations, and as a competitor, you want to be the first guy off the board, and you feel like you're the best, guy out there for every single team, and you want to convince people and show what you got. At the same time, it was great to have that perspective of a year ago when I couldn't even walk, going into the Louisville treatment room and wondering if I'm going to play football again, and just being grateful that Louisville gave me an opportunity, and I want to do everything I can to make them proud and prove myself right, and kind of having that mindset throughout the whole draft night, and just being grateful just for that opportunity, because I know it wasn't supposed to happen, but at this same time, well, doggone, I'm going to go make the most of it. I'm going to go out in there and do everything I can, and that was when the call came through. When we found out it was the Saints, we were ecstatic, just because, I went on 11 visits, and the Saints really stood out to me the most as far as like the culture of the people here, the culture of the staff, and just kind of the opportunity it was.
What was it like to share that moment with your wife, with, I think, were those your parents sitting next to you?
Yeah,
parents. And of course the dog.
Parents, everyone. Yeah. No, I know. I totally forgot about Murph. But yeah, she was, the funniest thing was, she was dead asleep for about the whole time, just passed out from swimming all day in the pool. And then all of a sudden everyone's cheering, and she wants to do whatever everybody else is doing. So she was up there cheering, and it was just such a cool moment, because it was exactly how she is and how our dynamic is as a family. So what a cool moment for everybody who's kind of been a part of that journey, and to be able to enjoy it and understand that you got some more work to do, and what a cool thing.
And Andy, a lot of people don't know it, but post combine, you want to talk about being busy every day, not just training. He mentioned earlier, like going to different facilities to meet with teams, to work out for teams. If you looked at his schedule, he had something every day and would fly across the country. So it's a real grind during that month leading up to the draft. It's almost like when you get to the draft, it's somewhat of a relief because you've made it through all the hurdles.
Yeah, no, there were for sure there were a few cocktails enjoyed on that day because of how prepared, and I dropped down to 9% body fat and was eating, do everything
What's
right.
that like?
I don't know.
I,
Never been there.
I don't know. I don't know anymore. It was a short time, but no, it was insane. I was in 5 states in 4 days or something like that, and you're going, and it's full. It's a 6-month interview process, and every single day you're on, and you got to go out there and just be yourself. And they're giving you a playbook prior to. They're shipping you one out. You got to learn it, regurgitate it back to them, talk about your previous offenses, talk about your journey, be able to kind of, engulf yourself in theirs and go operate. And it's a high standard, but I think that's what really equipped me for it, and I think that's why I really did well throughout that process.
So you get through that process, you get the call, you go to the New Orleans Saints facility, and you're probably thinking, I'm going to be able to learn behind Derek Carr. And then, really unexpectedly, at least for a fan, Derek Carr retires. How'd you hear that information?
Yeah, it wasn't unexpected as well, for sure. Kellen told me, he told me before practice, just kind of going out there. I had media day that afternoon or something like that.
So you had to answer questions the day you first learned about it.
Yeah. It wasn't like a full media prep or.
Welcome to my job.
Yeah, exactly. I was just gonna say, I was like, you're probably used to that. But it was really, you go out there and practice, so you're kind of thinking about that in the back of your head, like, oh man, this is pretty crazy. But for me, like I wanted to treat it the same. I think it would have been a great opportunity to learn from him because of who he is as a person and as a player and what he's done. And but I think for me, I've been prepared through a lot of that in my college career, and then also just going there and trying to make the most of that opportunity regardless and attack it every single day. So for me, it didn't change much, from day to day, but it was just a really cool moment as far as this is what you're training for.
Now you're putting in the work to try to win that job. I know that you all got together. Brandon Cooks invited a bunch of people together. Tell me what it was like getting to work out with some teammates.
Yeah, it was a great team bonding deal. I mean, talk about a pro and a vet in Brandon Cooks, and him being with the Saints and kind of bouncing all over the NFL, but coming back to it now after he was drafted here, and he's been a great influence on me. He flew everyone out, put us all up in a hotel. We went on Lake Oswego with this super nice lake house. We went out to his house and just spent the whole day playing cornhole. We got 2 days of workouts in at the Nike complex and facility, and it was just very, very cool to me to see just the emphasis and importance on just team coherence and everybody just getting on the same page and getting around each other. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned is how can you make the NFL more like college, where we can get around each other all hours of the day, just have fun, getting to know each other, because it is a job and there is expectations, but like any other job, it's not going to go well if you're not spending time with each other.
Tell me how you think the Saints are going to do this season.
I think we're going to do pretty good. I think we do really good just because of the group that we have. I couldn't give you a record or anything like that, but I know how we've been practicing, the staff that we have with Kellen and his championship pedigree, the quarterbacks that he's had, and then also just the leadership I think that we're building and that we already have. I think those are a really good recipe for success. So, I couldn't tell you what we're going to do exactly, but I know kind of throughout this whole process, it's going to be a lot of fun.
And what are you looking forward to most in your first NFL game?
Yeah, that's a good question. What am I looking forward to most in an NFL game? I would say just going out there and being able to play against a lot of guys where, I grew up watching. I've also played with and against in college, and to kind of get to that moment and just be out there in flow state and just having fun and ripping it. I think that's what I'm looking forward to, is just competing, and then afterwards you can kind of take a breath of relief and just say, this was what a cool moment, but treating it like every other game. And I think that's been the biggest thing, new team, new city, new college, and just going out there and having fun.
We like to end these interviews with a couple of fun questions.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite sport outside of football?
Are we talking like Olympic sport, collegiate sport,
Your call.
recreational sport? All right, I'll go one of each. Olympic, I'm going to go swimming. I feel like I'm a pretty good swimmer. Collegiate sport outside of football would be baseball. Shout out to Louisville baseball for a heck of a year.
Heck of a
A
year.
lot of times when I thought I should have played baseball because got injured a few times there. And I was like, man, I should have stuck with this whole BP and listen to country music and just standing out there having a good time at practice. And then I would say recreational would be cornhole. I would say cornhole for sure. We had a generational run out at Brandon Cook's house. We had 5 hours, and one thing I do like is a little bit competitiveness out there. We didn't lose for 5 straight hours. So if there's any Kentuckians or people from Louisville that want to get out,
I feel like the challenge has been issued.
Yeah, I think he's already working on a second career after this.
They got it on ESPN now. They got the ACL going, so we'll see.
There you go.
Now, who is the best cornhole player on the Saints? Are you calling that?
I think I am for sure. I haven't seen everybody. Me and Hunter Deckers we were rolling a little bit there, but I don't know. Are you guys what is your favorite sport to watch and or play, Mr. Beshear?
I think watching it's football and basketball. Olympic sport, I'm going to go curling because I believe I might be able to do it, so there's a future for me.
I mean,
That's
listen,
a great one.
For sure. Basketball around here, these parts with the UK. And I got back into baseball. I think with the pitch clock now and everything, it moves a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
I love watching Will play. My son plays high school baseball, but that's a little different, and I spend so many days out there supporting him. But it has been fun catching up with professional baseball again. What's your favorite type of food?
Ooh, that's one thing that moving to Louisville, where I didn't necessarily know, that was pleasantly surprised about, was the seafood there, and the Italian. I'm a big Italian guy. Volare was really good in Louisville. I would say overall, probably Italian.
What's your favorite memory from your wedding?
Oh, nice. You got some good questions.
Thank you. That's why I do a podcast.
You're getting the stare down somewhere right now.
No. I would say we're all out on the dance floor, and it's me and my wife. Like, we're kind of like half hugging, dancing together. Everyone's got their shirts off because we're like sweating or was in the pool or something.
Because he has 8% body fat.
Well, listen.
No, not anymore.
I was going to say, if you live in New Orleans, there's no way you could have 9% body fat.
That was a pretty cool moment, just dancing with everybody.
Now, if you could go back in time and tell yourself not to follow one fashion trend that you did, what would it be? I will tell you that Maryland's Governor Wes Moore apparently wore his crisscross jeans backwards, and I may or may not have had a bowl cut that I regret.
I would love to see that on you, Mr. Beshear. That would look pretty good.
It didn't then.
One fashion trend. I see some pictures of me in high school or just growing up, and I got like even more than this flow, but it was like straight up and super long, and I looked like a towhead. And it was pretty bad. I don't know what my parents or what I had doing, but it was like all the way out up here, and it was just super long and blonde. It was bad.
If that's the worst he did in an era where you grow up with cell phones and camera phones, I think you did all right.
I grew up with a flip phone. I am like 87 years old to some people, so I did have a flip phone up until like high school, which I think was super beneficial for me. But I did go downhill after there once everyone got smartphones and all that.
Yep.
Tyler, we've been rooting for you since we started this podcast. We are thrilled that you are on episode 14. We wish you the very best in your quest to be QB1, and we'll be rooting for you.
Yep, so proud.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, John. Mr. Beshear, I hope you become president one day, man. We will be voting for you. Or John, one of you guys. I appreciate the opportunity, and maybe at that point, I'll be in your cabinet for sports advisor or something.
I appreciate the encouragement and the alternative.
Yes.
Yeah.
What could go wrong?
Thanks for joining the podcast.
Appreciate you guys.
You're listening to the Andy Beshear Podcast, available on all major platforms for download, or you can watch us on our YouTube channel and subscribe at Andy Beshear Podcast. This podcast is about processing the issues of the day, the challenging news through a conversation amongst friends. So we're back with our segment with the Johns, John Rabinowitz and John McConnell, where we're going to discuss the issues from the week, the issues with the week ahead. You're going to hear us have some differing opinions, but at the end of the day, we're all friends and we all help each other get through this complicated life. So, John Rabinowitz, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think, guys, the first thing we got to talk about a little bit is this Texas tragedy that happened over the weekend. Last I saw, the count was 89 dead. There might dozens more missing. It's horrific to think about. A lot of horrific to think about. As the story progresses, you kind of, at least me personally, I wonder, like, how could this ever have happened? Yeah, you hear that alarms went off at 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. and listen, that's tough times.
Flooding at night is really deadly.
It's absolutely horrific, but I still go back to, I'm like, how did this happen? Could there have been preventative measures taken before? But it's easy to Monday morning quarterback. You've been in situations like this.
Yes.
I don't think people appreciate how deadly water can be and how quickly it can come up. But some of these stories of the survivors, it's unbelievable.
Our flood in 2022 was the deadliest in Kentucky history, and it also didn't come with a forecast anywhere near as severe as what we got. We lost 45 Kentuckians, 4 children, all siblings, stood at the foundation of what used to be their home. And the only thing left standing was a plastic swing in a tree. And that haunts me today, thinking about those kids being, their parents were holding on to them, and the water pulled them away, and that's the last time their parents ever saw them alive. We're all parents. And to think that your 9-year-old or your 11-year-old went off to camp and is not coming home, I feel for and am praying for each and every one of these families, because I've looked on the faces of people going through this type of grief way too much.
And it sounds like they've had flooding there before, but never to this level. And I don't know if it's preventative or not. I don't know if there are enough people to help out. I haven't heard the latest on that.
That's a question that I think people are rightfully asking, but we shouldn't assume an answer. Yeah. We should never politicize a natural disaster, because what matters most right now are the families that are going through this. We do need to make sure that our National Weather Service is properly staffed. So what we know is that there are positions in the local National Weather Service office that weren't filled. And in Kentucky, we've lost a lot of members of our National Weather Service. But in Kentucky, we were able to correctly predict the last major flooding we had. So I deployed boats and helicopters ahead of time, and we made about 1,000 rescues in the first 24 hours. So I don't know yet, and we don't know yet, whether the National Weather Service might have had a different forecast, if they had more people, if they could have gotten warnings out faster, or if this was one of those, acts of God that unfortunately took too many people. But what we do know is if we don't fully staff these offices, there will at least be one of these in the future that we could have been better prepared for.
And when you look at 45 minutes, the river rose 26 feet.
Yeah.
And Camp Mystic, I think I've got that name correctly, 750 girls were there. And of course, we all got kids.
You hear survivors and heroes, and the stories are just, tear-jerking.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. Who knows if anything could have been done, but I hope to God we learn from it.
I do too, and I also hope that the country rallies around these families and puts them first. Now, I remember on the second day after the flooding, maybe even the first, I think I was in Hazard, and I had a reporter ask me about climate change. And I'm the first Kentucky governor that's ever said out loud that climate change is real. But I let him have it. And I let him have it because while climate change probably contributed, and certainly contributes overall to these natural disasters, the families didn't need to hear that day. It needed to be about them. We needed to make sure our humanity was front and center, and that they came first.
Yeah.
Yeah, a scary time, no doubt. And our thoughts and prayers are with them, obviously, for those survivors and the rescuers who are out there helping them. But moving on to the big, beautiful bill.
Big ugly bill.
The big, ugly bill. Okay, we're going to change the name
There's
now
some
to the
good
big,
things.
ugly bill.
Okay.
When we look at what's happening right now it's passed. It is actually written in, and we look at kind of what the effects are going to be on our state, in particular with SNAP. And one thing I found that when I looked and tried to do some reading on this was that SNAP is now going to start to fall to us.
A larger portion of the administration of SNAP, which is food assistance, is going to fall to us. Kentucky's going to see about $66 million more in costs every year. We're going to have to find that in our budget. So the big ugly bill doesn't just add trillions of dollars to the national debt. It blows a hole through numerous means into every state budget that's out there. And we constitutionally have to balance our budget, just like every other state. We do what the federal government can't do. We do what the federal government doesn't do. And so this is going to cause some harm and some difficulty around a lot of states. But it's the fact that fewer people will get the assistance. I just don't want anybody having hunger pains when they're going to bed or when they're waking up. You know, for me, that my faith in the miracle of the fishes and the loaves being in every book of the gospel, you know, should teach us that when there is enough, this is one of those basic needs that we ought to provide. I'm also worried about the health care cuts. I mean, it's going to be devastating to rural America. You and I Saturday, we're talking to a COO of a rural hospital who was talking about maybe losing up to 200 jobs. And what that means for the community. I mean, overall, 20 to 30,000 healthcare workers are going to lose their jobs in Kentucky. And then think about everybody going through nursing programs because we've needed them.
Sure.
And it being harder to find a job there. It's not just the 200,000 people that are losing their coverage and the rural hospitals that are getting hit. I mean, this is one of the fastest growing parts of our economy. This is going to hurt us economically as a country.
And when you take millions of dollars out of these hospitals' budgets, I mean, those are people's jobs.
Well,
there is a direct relationship.
This bill is far from perfect, but the reality is the bill it passed. It's here. There are, in my mind, while again far from perfect, there were some things that I wanted to talk to you guys about. Listen, extends tax relief for some on Social Security benefits. Tips and overtime wages aren't going to be taxed. It adds money to the armed forces. There are benefits to certain things coming out of this bill. Do you see any positives of it?
This is the problem with such a big bill, and it's why Congress normally doesn't do it. You either put at risk those things not passing, and or you give somebody an ultimatum that either they go along with or they oppose. To me, this is like somebody saying, I'm going to give you $10 and I'm going to beat you up. You know, $10 is great, but the damage that it causes is worse than some of those benefits.
And also to your point, I think we talked about this before. It was interesting to watch procedurally how it went through in some of the carve-outs with certain states to get the votes.
And you see some pork in it too.
Yeah.
That only a specific state is getting a certain benefit just to get that vote. And that concerns me, given how big this bill is and its widespread ramifications. That's basically buying somebody off. And they may think that that's okay in Washington, D.C., but I think all of our oaths are to the country and to do the best we can for the country. So speaking of the country,
Yes.
we have new tariff news. We've talked about the on again, off again, reciprocal, across the board, industry specific, even company specific. I think a tariff was threatened just on Apple for a little while. Now we have the newest news, which means the deadline that was maybe today
Yeah.
Or Wednesday.
is Wednesday.
Yes.
We're filming this on Monday.
Yep.
It's coming out on Thursday. So if you're listening to it, it was originally yesterday's.
Yep.
Is being extended to August 1st. And now the vehicle on these deals are letters. That letters are going out to at least 100 countries that say, if you don't come to us, and agreed to a deal on August 1st, you're getting the April 2nd tariffs. And if that's confusing to anybody out there, it's because this whole approach is confusing.
And I think we were discussing this before we got in. I think the latest I heard as we were walking in today, Monday, was that 2 letters that went out to South Korea and Japan.
2 critical allies.
25% tariffs if we don't reach some sort of trade agreement. Luckily, as a small business owner of an Italian restaurant at this point, I'm glad I have not seen anything with Italy.
But your clients are
Yes.
impacted by this one.
Yeah.
I remember being asked on Fox News, don't you think there should be more American cars being driven around in Japan? And I said, sure. But what you're not pointing out is that Toyota's biggest manufacturing facility in the world isn't in Japan. It's in Georgetown, Kentucky. And so these are our two of our largest foreign direct investors in this state. I mean, a South Korean company helped build the 2 largest battery plants on planet Earth. And so I think our economy is more than just the goods that may be imported and exported. It's also the investment. And those are 2 critical allies that if we push to China, we are going to be less secure.
Well, and just building out business in Kentucky, when you're talking to people looking to come here for economic development, and every time they listen to the news, the tariff timing changes, or the patterns of when they're going to happen, or the countries, how difficult does that make it to have those conversations?
It makes the math enormously difficult. So let's say you're building a $1 billion new facility, but with the tariffs changing every day, it could float $300 million either way. You can't do that. That's 30% of the overall cost that something could go up and down, and no one can build, reshore a new facility, especially with something we're not doing in the United States right now, without importing a lot of the original product, machinery, or other things that are needed.
Again, we're here Monday, so it'll be interesting on Thursday when this is released to see how many trade deals have finalized, if any. And my understanding, and maybe they're not finalized, but there's a framework for Vietnam and the UK. Do you guys think there'll be more?
I think there's going to be more.
I think maybe you'll see some things in theory. I will be surprised if we actually see fully fleshed out deals. And to end on a lighter note, announcement from the president that he wants to have a UFC fight at the White House. Now, I do think we have to admit to everybody watching that the 3 of us have gone to a UFC fight before.
And been in the ring.
And been in the ring afterwards to take a couple of pictures. What are your thoughts?
Listen, I'm all for it. I think it's awesome. I think they'd bring like 25 or 30,000 people, and it's huge right now. And what I would say is that you and I talked about it, and John, we talked about it while we were there. I understand the boxing portion. The grappling portion I struggle with a little bit. When they're on the ground, you really can't see that well, but I know there's a science to it. So I'm trying to learn that, but I'm a boxing fan, so I like the boxing aspect of it. But it's very unique, and it will draw a lot of interest.
I think we're going to lean on John to make sure we get tickets, too. Well, still falls to him.
Certainly the top level when we were there
Yeah.
was so different than any of the other matches, and you saw the skill. But for the question of should this be at the White House or not, in the end, for me, this is the politics of distraction. Right? I care a lot more about what tariffs are doing to the country. I care a lot more about what's going to happen with health care. If Democrats get all upset about this, this is them chasing the shiny ball and not focusing on what's most important to Americans.
I mean, where would you put the ring?
Yeah, South Lawn, I'm not sure.
And if he can get tickets, I'm not sure they'll let me in, but we'll see. This is the Andy Beshear podcast, and this has been another segment with John and John going over the issues of the day and apparently whether we'll sit ringside at the White House. You're listening to the Andy Beshear podcast. This segment is called In My Kentucky Accent. It's where I talk about what's on my heart this week. This week, I want to talk about the lack of courage of so many members of Congress. See, I believe that when you are elected to these public service jobs, your number one job is to serve your constituents, not your party, not any particular president. You are there to represent all those voters and the people who live in your community, which is why I am so disappointed in congressional Republicans, except for a couple, in failing to stand up and speak out against the big, ugly bill. This is a bill that is going to hammer rural America, that is a punch in the face to rural communities, that's going to kick a ton of these representative and senators' constituents off of their health care, that's going to shutter rural hospitals all across America, that's going to make Americans, whether they have private health insurance or are on Medicaid, drive hours just to see a doctor. This is taking not just a hatchet to health care in rural America, but their economy, since these are some of the biggest employers. Yet, how many had the courage to stand up and say, Mr. President, you might be for this, but this hurts my people, and I'm standing with them? Almost none of them. It's time to elect people who stand on their principles and will always do what's right for their people, which means we need to elect a whole lot of new members of Congress. And now, for everyone's favorite segment of the Andy Beshear podcast, Gen Z Lingo, and we have Will back for the second straight episode. Will, what do you got for us this week?
All right, our word for today is bars. So a bar is something that you could say is really poetic, or it's just a really cool thing to say. Like, if there's a lyric in a song that you really connect with and is like, wow, that was really inspirational, that's a bar. And so, do you have, like, I don't know what you would say, like, maybe a favorite, like, line of a poem or something you remember someone saying that was like...
We're not so old that we don't listen to music, too.
Right. Is there a lyric from a song back in the day that you...
Back in the
day that...
Well, what about Universal Sound by Tyler Childers?
Yeah, there are a lot of bars in that song.
He hits, that universal sound.
Right.
That's a bar.
That's a bar.
See, John, you always thought a bar was something different.
Listen, this is a shameless plug. There's only one bar that I know of in Versailles, the Amstel Bourbon Bar, but this is totally different. Now I have to use this in a whole different way.
The way you work in free advertisements to your small businesses is pretty amazing.
Listen, it's crucial as we grow. Do you agree, John?
I agree, and I just want to hear some poetry come out of John. That's what I want.
That would be
I
incredible.
want John
I
to
was
spit
just
some
gonna
I want
bars.
some poetry.
Now,
Spit some bars.
Will, is there an opposite to a bar? Like if you disagree, like facts and cap. If somebody says that's a bar, is there a response?
There is no, like, opposite end of the spectrum there. You could say, like, that's whack, I guess.
So
You guys know
so
that
you could
one.
say
We
no,
know
that's
that.
right. Yeah, that one has stood the test of time.
Yeah, right. That's still being used.
I heard that about your attire last week.
It was whack.
It was whack.
I think
I
those.
heard it went viral, though. Congrats on that.
It went viral, but
Will, what was last week's word that you used to describe it? Goated.
It was very goated.
I was goated last week. But I didn't have a bar to recite. I didn't have anything to go with it though.
Next time, next year.
I'm gonna work on that.
So, Will, could there be something else that somebody says that maybe you just never thought of before? That's a brand new thought. Could that be?
That is
a bar?
that's exactly what a bar is, really. It's something that you were like, wow, I never thought about it like that way. And it really is like, it's just a light bulb kind of going off in your head. That's
a
a bar.
profound statement.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So you guys are catching on.
Yeah, like a wonderful new bar you may have found in a different town that could be possibly in Versailles.
I'm
That
not
would be.
106 Court Street.
I only use the bars
kid's
I'm
16.
talking about.
He shouldn't be talking about that.
I'm using the bars I'm talking about, not those bars.
Oh.
So
Will, as we were sitting down, you were also talking about catching the woe.
What is this?
okay, so a woe, if I throw it up to you, you have to catch it and like lock it up. All right.
Yeah.
So hit the woe.
So I catch it and lock it
Yeah.
up.
That,
look at
right,
it.
just
you
like
And
that.
can-
can I throw it backhand?
Yeah.
Oh, got it. Over your way.
John.
John, you got it.
The Andy Beshear podcast has caught the woe. I think that's a bar.
That's a bar. That's a bar.
This has been the Andy Beshear podcast. We hope you had a little bit of fun. You processed some of the tough news that's hitting us day after day, but mainly, I hope you have a really great week. Thanks for joining us.
That's good.
That wasn't just a bar. That was a fire bar.
Oh,
Fire bar.
fire bar.
That's great.
Facts.
How do you know about this already?
Me?
The whoa.
Just
You're way ahead.
I'm with the kids.
Can you
know?
text catching the whoa?
Well, that would be kind of tough because you might have to like video yourself. Like
I hate to go all the way back to the first one of these we did. Is there a whoa emoji?
you're just like backtracking. We're already past this, Dad.
We're
You
past
should-
emojis.
Yeah, you should know this stuff. I'm kind of disappointed, honestly. I really thought you were better than that.
Just another day.
Just another day.
Remember, you can download us on all major platforms or subscribe to our YouTube channel at Andy Beshear Podcast. Your downloads and your subscriptions are what keep us going and keeps this conversation going. So make sure you're a part of it, and let's do this together.